Woodinville, even the Gun Hill, from Freeman Street to Prospect Avenue, Fordham Road, Cobb City to Elder Avenue, Valley Park, Eaton Wall to Bronx River, Bronx Deal, Soundview, S-Bar, baby. I'm boogie down like this Choke King Mario in the playground. This is how it go down.
This is episode 3 of the Bronx Music Podcast, and I'm thrilled every edition of our show, but I'm particularly thrilled because Maestro Bobby Sanabria is here. Nice to see you, my friend Bobby.
Nice to see you, Gary.
And the one and the only Jennifer Jade Ledesna is here.
Yay!
And I'm trying to figure out, Bobby has been a performer.
You guys didn't applaud for me, but that's all right.
No, that's all right. Bobby has been a performer for many, many years, but Jen just loves to perform. She sings, she dances, she talks, you name it, she does it. She loves being out
She
here.
doesn't do windows. Yeah.
So I will tell you, for folks who are in the house here and also for people in podcast land, my name is Gary Axelbank. I grew up doing radio, and that's what I started out doing. And so this podcast, in my mind, is radio. But the challenge, the artistic challenge for me, is to do a podcast, so because it's all audio, for people in the house. So who am I playing to? Am I playing to the people in the house, or are we playing to all the people out there in podcast land? I don't know. So we're just going to continue right along. Just before we get started, we want to thank the artist and my friend Elliot Glick, my friend Monica Glick, and we also want to thank my buddy George Williams Jr., who is the technical genius of this. And so, Bobby, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good. Thank you for the invite here.
Congratulations on the nomination of Vox Humana. Bobby Sanabria, the Multiverse Big Band, nominated for his 9th Grammy Award. Congratulations.
Now you applaud.
Well, you know, we got to give a little credibility. We want to put your credits out there.
Thank you.
Before we talk about you and your music and Jen and her music, I know you're real excited about what's happening Saturday, April 13th at the Bronx Music Hall, from Tin Pan Alley to the Harlem Renaissance, celebrating the music of the Harlem Hellfighters that laid the groundwork for American popular music in the 125th birthday of the great Duke Ellington. Why is this event so important to you?
Well, we're celebrating Tin Pan Alley to the birth of the Harlem Renaissance, and there was one other person that needs to be mentioned that is part of this tribute, besides James Reese Europe and Maestro Duke Ellington is the great Puerto Rican musician Rafael Hernandez, who became, after World War I, in his service in the Army, Puerto Rico's greatest composer and Latin America's most beloved composer. So we're celebrating this in conjunction with the Bronx Music Hall, Bronx Music Heritage Center, and the Tin Pan Alley Music Association. So it's a great event. This is a preamble to our grand opening of the Bronx Music Hall that will happen in the fall. We're doing this in the lobby of the Bronx Music Hall, which is located on 163rd Street.
438 East 163rd Street.
There you go. Thank you so much for saying
Well, that's my job, to bring the information. I do want to mention, and if you don't have it, it's just an incredibly wonderful CD. It's a double CD, Vox Humana, the Bobby Sanabria and the Multiverse Big Band. But Bobby says, right in the liner notes, in my case, the South Bronx during a time period was the last era when big bands of masters like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Buddy Rich, Machito, Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, Don Ellis, and more were in the public eye, and they became my heroes.
Yes.
I have interviewed you a number of times. I don't know if I ever asked you, when was the first time that you opened your eyes and you said, gee, I got to hear some percussion, I want to hear some music? When and where did that happen?
Well, I was lucky that I was the last generation of Bronxites and New Yorkites, for that matter, to experience drumming in the streets. You used to hear the sound of Cuban rumba in the South Bronx as played by we Puerto Ricans and anybody else that lived in the neighborhood, whether they were Jewish, Irish, Italian.
How old were you, and what years are we talking about?
We're talking about the 60s, mid-60s. I was a little kid, and you'd hear in the summertime, as soon as it got warm, Like now, you'd hear this. The sound of conga drums in the park. It was like the soundtrack of my life when I was a kid. And then I was lucky because the neighborhood I grew up in, the Mount Haven section, in the Melrose Projects, was predominantly African American. So we heard everything from funk, soul, R&B, jazz as well. And I was besides growing up with salsa from Cuba, our native Puerto Rican forms, bomba en plena in my home, aguinaldos, etc. So I lived a very privileged childhood from the musical cultural standpoint, and I'm the beneficiary of that. I'm just an example, I'm just a representative of my environment. And I'm so glad that I grew up in the South Bronx at that time period, even though it was very volatile because of the burnings of the buildings.
Which was several years later. When did you have an instrument in your hand? Was that in school? I mean, I know my first instruments were in junior high school.
No, the first instrument I ever played was a cowbell.
More cowbell, please. More cowbell.
Yeah, in one of those rumbas, I was a little kid, 11 years old, 12, and these guys were playing, and there was another kid there, and he couldn't keep up with the rhythm on the cowbell. So I'm watching, and I'm going in my head, man, I know I could do this. And finally, I got the gumption to say, hey, I could do this. So they let me play. And when I played, I was playing in time, but the cowbell sounded like crap, to use a descriptive Bronx term. And
well, we have other terms for that, but you can go with crap.
Yeah. So one of the guys stopped the drumming and said, I knew he couldn't do it or what. And another gentleman there that lived in my building, I always remember him. He was a black Puerto Rican gentleman who was an electrician. He was playing. He goes, no, he's playing the rhythm. Let me show you something, Bobby. And he said, the cowbell has a crack in it on the seam. Hold it and squeeze it at the top and then play it. And you'll take the vibrations out that's making it sound clangy. And that was my first percussion lesson. And when I played, we must have played for about 8 minutes straight, 10 minutes. Everybody applauded. That was the first time I ever played a percussion instrument.
Isn't that amazing? It's an amazing story, especially because, and Jen will get to you in a moment, you once told me when we were doing a TV interview, you said, everywhere I go, everything I do, I hear a rhythm. And I asked you, really? So we're sitting here on TV doing it. I think we were doing the West Side Story interview at the time because you had done an interpretation of West Side Story. And I said to you, are you hearing a rhythm right now? And you said, yes. Are you hearing a rhythm right now?
Well, yes. Me and Jen are going to perform in a minute, so we're going to do a little bit of bolero rhythm, which is the slow, romantic, rhythmic feel that's used for ballads in Cuba.
Jen, you play with a lot of people, and some people don't know we're recording this on Sunday, April 7th, and on Saturday night, April 6th, you were at Arthur's Tavern down in the West Village. She didn't get home till late, but she got here on time anyway. When you get to be invited, because you're on this Vox Humana, when you get to be invited to play with Maestro Bobby Sanabria and the Multiverse Big Band, that's a must-do, right? I mean, what's it like to know that you're about to work with Bobby Sanabria?
For me, it's not what nor where, it's who. And anytime that he calls upon me for my service, I'm available because he's the cat. It's my chosen family, and it's an honor to serve. And he was also my teacher at the new school, so it's always
I didn't know that.
So we have a good amount of time under the belt.
To me, and one of the things when we talked about maybe you would play something here, he was like, all right, maybe we'll do something Brazilian. And then when you guys sat down, you said, what do you want to do? And he just started playing a rhythm, and you could just sing with it. He's incredibly versatile, isn't he? Beyond versatile.
Yes.
Yeah, he could play any kind of music.
Aliens.
Speaking of versatile, I saw the word in your bio online out there. I saw the word polyglot, and I had never heard of it, and I didn't know if it was something I ought to.
You're lying.
I ought to find out about, and I was worried if it was the kind of thing we could bring up in public. But
It's not a disease.
it's not. No, it's not, or something else. You speak how many languages?
Fluently 4. I understand Italian, and I'm learning Arabic now.
How? I don't know what to say. Were you always multilingual in that way?
My nanny is from Nicaragua, so in the house it was English and Spanish all the time. And then I ended up going to Brazil. I remember the summer before I graduated from the university for like 3 weeks, and then I went back for 3 months, and that was that. And that opened my ear to French. But I went to the Performing Arts High School, LaGuardia, so we had to sing art songs since freshman year in different languages. So by sophomore year, we were singing French already.
Listen,
And culturally, she's half Dominican, half Puerto Rican.
What are the 4 languages?
American English.
Which is a different sort of English.
Dialects
yes.
up in here, specifically Bronx. But I digress. Yes, Spanish, French, and Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese.
I think when we did a TV interview, you were actually in Brazil at the time. You traveled, frankly, she came back, and I don't want to say she came back to do our podcast, but she was literally all over the world. Talk about playing and singing in international places.
Well,
and
for example,
versus, let's say, being here on City Island in New York.
It happened last night. I was like, why is everyone so calm in here? Because I work in a cave that I refer to as the zoo. And we go from 11 p.m. till about 5 in the morning.
Where is that?
In Paris, so just one street in from the Seine by Notre Dame in Saint Michel. Nina Simone used to work there, and all these great artists in the past, and it was their jazz spot after in World War II, basically. All the soldiers would go there and get entertained by Louis Armstrong, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, so we go all night. And it's 10 singers on tap and just rotation. You never know when you're gonna go. And the audience is wild. And my mom was like, I don't like this place, it's the zoo. But I'm like, come on. So after there, coming here, it's like, why is everyone so...
Well, we didn't get started yet, and they look at it.
I have to hand out vitamin B at the gigs or something. Like, here, guys, it's vitamin B.
Well, because you got a lot of energy.
Do I?
Well, we know that. We know that to be true. And let's ask you the same question about music, and when did music become important to you, and when did you realize that you had this voice? And I have to tell you, we did a little sound check before, and I almost had tears in my eyes just listening to the sound of your voice. It's just so beautiful. But so when did you get started? What did you do?
I've always been a fan of making my share of bread, as we would say. So every Friday, the first Friday every month.
She wants to get paid. Let's be clear.
I would tell my mom and my dad, may they rest in peace. I'd say, look, guys, I'm gonna throw a show, and there's some VIP seats, and so if you want to come to the show, you gotta pay. And so my dad would give me like a 5 for everybody, and then I'd do a gem scene with my dolls, and then the side B of the cassette.
And how old?
Golly gee, I can't comment on that. Young.
No, I don't mean how old you are now. I want to know how old you were then.
Darling, if I said gem, you can do the math. So side B of the cassette tape was instrumental, and I'd just do the latest hits from Gem, and I'd collect my money. And that was when I first started singing. Then I went to St. Dominic's.
But when did you say to yourself, "Wow, I can actually do this"?
No.
I mean, you said, look, I started singing, and people say he sounds like a bad Bob Dylan.
Aww. Well, when you're a child, you don't care about opinions. And my home was affirmations all the time. It was like the power couple from Puerto Rico, República Dominicana. And in the house, it was like, ay, mi cielo, mi luz, which is like, good morning. You know what I'm talking about? Are very supportive. So I could do anything, and they'd be like, that's great,
And one thing literally led to another. Did you ever consider doing anything else, or was it always...
I never wanted to be a singer.
Never wanted to be a singer?
I wanted to be a pulmonary
specialist. I was just
specialist.
assuming it was the opposite.
No, pulmonary specialist. I actually went to Vassar for biology, and I wanted to leave LaGuardia and go to Horace Mann, and my mom was like, "Yo, gotta go there and get good grades. It's free." And I was like, "Okay."
So you did go to Horace Mann?
No, I had to stay at LaGuardia. It's a great thing. I appreciated fame. And anyway, and then I went to Vassar, and then I did a year, And then I realized I do you a time, hard time, chem reports, and And then I had met Wynton Marsalis playing basketball behind high school, and he was
Wow.
like, "What you gonna do with your life?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to be a doctor." He's like, "What you here for?" And then next thing I know, I sang for him, and he was like, "You're not going to be a mother doctor." And I was like, "Whatever." And then I came back, and that was that. Take a leave of absence.
You still know Wynton Marsalis?
Yes, one of my very, very, very good friends.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all
It's a
family.
good thing this is on video. It's going to be on video because so we can rewind. I can rewind it and catch up to what everything she just
Everything she's even talking about.
It's the Bustelo. It's the Bustelo.
It's just agua. It's just water.
We're having tea. It's tea time. It's darlings. It's tea time.
And at what point did you say, "This is what I do"? Or it just
There
came
was a
to
moment.
you?
There was a moment.
There was a moment.
My late great mentor, Mrs. Anna Ext, she was amazing. I was at Vassar and I was in vocal peril at the time, so I could only keep one show.
Vocal?
Peril, which means I was up all night doing these chem reports and the biology reports, and I was singing on empty. And I got, swollen, like super swollen. I had to write things down and like show people.
Wow.
So I kept just one show, Pippin, and I remember we were in tech, and it might sound histrionic, but that day, we were in rehearsal, everyone's like chilling, holding the pose, and a door opened and a light shone. And I thought, exactly, vroom! I was like, oh my gosh.
It was right on time.
I planned that. So basically, and I
Cue the motorcycle.
I called my mentor and I was like, I think I'm going to be a singer. And she says, it's about time. And I called my mom, and she was like, great. And that was it.
Do you take lessons or anything like that, or it's really...
I mean, I went to Dalcross, and I was taking piano lessons.
Bobby, this is the first time that you have done an album with vocals?
No, we've always featured vocals on all our previous albums. I must say, in case people don't know, every album we've recorded with the Multiverse Big Band has been nominated for a Grammy, so we're very proud of that. And one of them was actually nominated for 2 Grammys, the album Multiverse back in 2012. But we've always included 1 or 2 cuts, but this is entirely vocals featuring these 3 incredible singers besides Jen, the great Janice Siegel from the Manhattan Transfer, and the great Antoinette Montague.
Is it hard? Now, this is really at a much different level. My brother has a band in New Jersey, and it's just a bunch of old folks who just want to play. Is it hard to keep your huge multiverse big band of incredible musicians together and get them together and get them on the same page to make a double live CD?
Yes.
Oh, there's my answer. All right.
Well, any band leader can tell you the more musicians you add to the mix, the more complications you have. And some of them are psychological, I must say. But in any case, the payoff, as Duke Ellington would always say, when sometimes his musicians would be all drunk in a nightclub performance or whatever, and somebody went up to him and said, "Why are you doing this?" And he goes, "Wait till you hear this band when
then you'll know why.
When the musicians aren't drunk and it's firing on all cylinders." So that's the payoff with this.
And how many players are there?
24.
24.
Including me. And I'm at the Vortex on the drum set, so I have the most important position in the band besides the lead trumpet. And for those of you who are watching this and you don't know about the intricacies of a big band, the identity of any big band in the jazz context is determined by the drummer and the lead trumpet player. That's how you start off. If you want to get a good big band together, those are the 2 chairs that you really have to focus on to organize the band.
I had never heard that. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay.
She was my student.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm in a privileged position because I'm driving the bus. I'm making sure.
But you love being that guy. Come on, come on.
Sure.
I mean, the album starts with Bobby. I forget exactly what you say, but you're like, "Hey, yo, let's go! We're ready to rock."
I don't say that, but
No, I know that. Well, that's me and my old upbringing.
But yes, it's really incredibly exciting. And to get back to your previous question about getting into music, when I was a kid, I obviously saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan like everybody else. Like every kid my age at that time sang "She Loves You," yeah, yeah, and all that stuff. But when I saw on the Ed Sullivan Show groups like the Count Basie Orchestra, Duke Ellington, Buddy Rich's big band, singers like Tony Bennett, and others, that really freaked me out and blew my mind. Because Ringo is great and he's playing time, and the Beatles, etc. But when I saw these incredible jazz orchestras, I said the role of the drummer is on such a high level, and plus they're featured as soloists too, that just freaked me out.
The creation of jazz pieces like this, or the interpretation you and I were talking about the Steely Dan's "Do It Again" that you had done, and that old pop song "Spooky" you did. But the creation of the music, how much input do the musicians have, or do you kind of script it and say, well, this is where we're going?
Well, the secret of any big band is found within the talents of the arrangers who orchestrate the music for the musicians. But you have to give, and then I do some of the arranging, but then in my position as the leader, I assign certain things to the arrangers, and then I sculpt it to my liking. Sometimes subtracting, sometimes adding.
Working alone or working with the band members?
Well, the band member, in terms of the interpretation of the music, that's when the musicians come in. And you have to have really great musicians that are very versatile. One of the things about us is that we can change instantaneously from a concert jazz orchestra to simply just a dance orchestra that plays grooving hard rhythms for you to shake what your mama gave you, as we would say. And you have to have versatile musicians, in my case, that have extensive knowledge or work with Latin rhythms, especially Afro-Cuban and Brazilian rhythms. So I'm lucky in that sense, and I can only find them here in the greatest city in the world, New York.
In New York. One of the other things that you educated me about, and Elena, who also is at the one of the co-founders of the Bronx Music Heritage Center, is the amount of music that was in the Bronx in I guess the early part of the 19th century. You said there was more, and Elena, of course, has done a lecture on Bronx music theaters, more theaters in the Bronx than even in Manhattan?
Well,
many?
Well, Dr. Mark Nason, who teaches African American studies at Fordham, has said that at one time the Bronx had as many or more nightclubs, catering halls, dance halls than Manhattan, which led to an incredibly vibrant music scene that I was the beneficiary of when I was a young man. I caught the tail end of that. And then, unfortunately, the fires came. They destroyed the South Bronx over that span of 10 years, unfortunately, from the late 60s into the 70s. But yeah, the scene here in the Bronx, and I must remind Bronxites who are watching this, the way most people look at the Bronx, especially the South Bronx that are outsiders, they look at it in terms of usually fear or like disappointment. In other words,
yes,
it's not
of course.
It's not a destination
Well,
that's first on their places to visit. And I tell Bronxites, especially those who have left the borough, that you don't understand. You come from a place of greatness that where Dr. Mark Nason again has said more forms of music have been nurtured in the Bronx, particularly the suburbs, than in any other place in the United States.
Well, that's why we're here at The Artist on City Island as a perfect example of that. Jen, how did your singing change? Has it changed, or is it the same singing when you were back there and they told you you're going to stay at LaGuardia and you're going to keep singing?
I mean, I'll give you a basic example. I was in Madrid at the top of March, and it was the first time I was.
I love how she just drops that. Oh, by the way, I was in Madrid at the top of March.
So basically, I chose a place near the school, and I took my first flamenco, I took cajon. You're going to be so proud of me. Going to be.
That's cajon.
Pero tú sabes, but rhythms are the rhythms. Rhythm is dance. And so anyway, basically, the cajon, I took some flamenco dancing, and I took the singing. And it's always like, even last night, I felt so like sparse. even though I'm amongst friends and I'm in my country doing my thing in my hood, the West Village and vibing, I felt like, man, if I could only access this other stuff. So there's
What do you mean by that?
Well, when we talk about singing and changing, sometimes you wish you could sing a certain way so you can put it right into the pot of the stew and then serve it, but it's a slow broil, So I was like, how do I thicken the roux to include the genetic memory of my Spanish heritage, which is my mom's background, Canary Islands, via Puerto Rico, etc. And I've done work in other aspects of other things, but this is something else that was like yearning to me. So that kind of like ignited this like thirst within my spirit that I'm living with now, and I'm telling you all now, so you have to hold me accountable.
It's on the record, my dear.
On the record.
And is it something that you consciously deal with, because the way you've described it is somewhat metaphorical about the pot of the stew and all that stuff, or is it something that you start to feel? I always love to get into an artist's muse and how that works, and we're trying here.
You're doing.
Trying.
You're doing. There's no try. There's only do. I will say that, because I believe that everything is. The late great Benny Powell used to say to me that everything's inside of you, and then you just have to awaken it. Because we're all the same. It's just a matter of where you decide to be, and you sprout that flower. So for me, it's just like, what was the question?
Well, the question was whether you consciously make a change
Yes.
in the technical aspect of singing, or it's one of those things that
everything. Every country that I move to and put the seeds in the soil, it's deliberate.
It's deliberate.
Bless you. Yes. Because there's always a connection to the precipice of what I want to feed for the future and what I'm interested in doing, just like the languages that I learn as well and the dances that I try to learn.
We're going to have both of you play something, but how often do you sing? You sing every day? You wake up in the morning and sing? Do you perform every day? I know you you perform all over the world, but is it literally every day, or do you take a day off? Somehow I can't picture you not singing. I have to say that. Like, I can't picture him not with rhythm,
I mean, I don't think humans ever take a day off because the heart is beating. So there's always a reception of energy in the sponge of being alive. So everything's going to be utilized.
Well done.
Oh, merci.
You know what?
I practiced that for hours.
You know what I have to tell you about that? When you just said that, for me, who deals with television programs and guests and different interviews, what you said is true. You never stop doing that.
No.
All right, are we ready to? Bobby's always ready, and you're always ready. Because I will tell you, when they said, "All right, what do you want to do?" and they both just started, and so, Bobby, you want to introduce something, or
Sure.
what do we
But
want to say?
before we do, I'd like to mention also that the day before, on April 12th, we're going to have a great group, Ricardo Pon's Boricua Jazz Quartet, also at the Bronx Music Hall, in the lobby of the Bronx Music Hall, because the theater is yet to be completed. We're still in construction, but the lobby is huge, and that's where the Multiverse Big Band is going to be playing on Saturday the 13th. But on the night before, the great Ricardo Pons, saxophonist, flautist, with his Boricua Jazz Quartet. Boricua is the Amerindian name for Puerto Rico,
Yes.
or for Puerto Ricans. Borinquen is the original name, land of the gods, land of the brave men. But April 12th, Friday, it'll be at 7 p.m.
Elaine is here's proof that we're in a live audience here. Did you want to add something to that?
Boricua presents Jazz Boricua.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Once again,
That's why we bring. She's the co-founder of the Music Center, and we bring her here.
that's all right. I stand rejected. Again.
No.
I-
No, corrected, not rejected.
Boricua, this great organization that's sponsoring a lot of concerts featuring Puerto Rican artists, is presenting Ricardo Ponce Jazz Boricua on April 12th, Friday, the day before, at 7. We'll be at 4 p.m. the next day in the Bronx Music Hall lobby, both events. And at 4 p.m., the event on Saturday opens with a lecture about these three incredible gentlemen, James Richeur, Rafael Hernandez, and Duke Ellington. And then at 5:15, we come on with the Multiverse Orchestra. So
And so your band is going to play.
Yes, in full force, you know.
And, you know, what Bobby says when he starts a concert, or I know in his head, he says, we're going to do this and we're going to take no prisoners. That's how you approach it, right?
Always.
I know he does.
Yeah.
I know him long enough. All right, so are we going to play something?
Sure.
You brought your...
Well, you'll see me
phone?
playing drum set on Saturday, but here I have a interesting instrument. You know, I'm all about the history and educating people. This instrument, everybody knows, in English people call it bongos, but the real name is bongo, which is an African-derived word from the Efik people in southern Nigeria that were brought to Cuba, as well as the Yoruba and the Arara and the Bantu Congolese from Western Central Africa. The Efik were from southern Nigeria, and in their language, the word bongo means the truth. But it also means drum. So when you see a bongo player or bongosero play in a salsa orchestra, they have to speak the truth rhythmically. So the small head is called the macho, which means male. The big head is called the hembra, which means female. The macho talks a lot, but the female...
It's got the soul.
Always commands.
You know, there we go. Jen, when he started talking, I saw you sat back, because this is what we get from Bobby Sanabria all the time.
I never
On
know what I'm going to
WBGO,
learn. I always
that's
learn
what he
new
does.
things. It's so cool.
Every day.
So
do I.
just to finish off, this is a uniquely Cuban instrument. It's African inspired, but it's what we call un instrumento criollo, which criollo in Spanish, or Creole in French, means of the colony. So this was born on the island of Cuba in the eastern part of the island, particularly in the city of Santiago. So there you got the 411, son, as we say in the Bronx.
So, Jen, do you want to introduce the song, or go ahead? It's all you.
It's crazy
You don't
that
need me anymore. You guys can handle
The
this.
fact that you said truth, this is a song I wrote eons ago, and we premiered it live at the Kennedy Center off the Truth album. Wow, that's cool. Universe.
The Truth album.
So it's called the Regresa, which means return, and he never did.
All right, so how would you like this done? Rare, medium, or well done?
Medium rare, because I spend time in France, so, you know, can't have it well done.
Okay.
Need a little blood in there.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Enséñame tu amor, quítame el dolor de amar con estas lágrimas, mis memorias de tu voz. Abrázame porque me estoy cayendo en esta gran tristeza que yo siento. Saber que es vivir sin tus besos, cada hora me estoy muriendo. Cuando me duermo, sueño con la vida que quería tener contigo. Y después cuando me despierto, quiero cerrar mis ojos con el olvido. Porque en realidad tú no estás a mi lado. Cada noche yo rezo para un milagro, pero tu ausencia es tan larga. Ojalá que un día tú regreses para curar mis cicatrices. Mi corazón con su canción desesperada, amor por ti se queda.
Only in the Bronx.
There you go. Here we go. Come on. Let's give it up. I was going to say, boy, that is Bronx music if there ever was Bronx
Of course.
music. What neighborhood did you grow up and live in here? In the
Morris
Bronx?
Park Avenue, the Sicilian neighborhood.
So
How
it's
you
not
doing?
too far from here.
Yeah, you know, that was it.
Bobby, so are you working on something next? What's next? Oh, one thing I wanted to mention. This was a live recording, right?
Yes, when you hear this recording, you'll be transported to Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola in New York City, which
What a
happens to be
great
my
place.
favorite jazz club to play in New York. And it was done live, no jive. So what you hear is what you get. And I must say, I'm so proud of the musicians, Jen, Janice, and Antoinette, because they just freaking rocked it that night. It's very dangerous to do a live album. When you hear live albums in the pop music world, the rock music world, they're usually a compilation of the best takes from a tour.
Right.
And in this case, it was just one night.
One night.
One night.
All three singers were there?
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
And so on some cuts, they're all singing, etc.
Why are you reacting like that?
Ooh, golly gee. It was a high time. Because, you know, we had, like, Friday, I hadn't gotten, like, the full arrangements from certain cats. And so it was almost like, here we go, jump in. The thing that I love about Maestro B is that he trusts you 100%, sink or swim. So if you end up drowning, that's on you. Wear your floaties, figure it out.
Oh, so there was a little bit of pressure to live
A
up
lot
to
of bit
that.
of pressure. Because by the time we hit the Sunday shows, it was a Father's Day weekend. It was 6 cameras, the live audience, and the recording. So it's like triple.
And it was live streamed as well all over the world.
Yeah.
So everybody, you know, I mean, it's funny. People ask me, do you still get nervous when you go on stage? We all do, but the difference between a pro and an amateur is a pro takes that nervous energy and uses it to their advantage.
There you
Like
go.
it's not like I'm in the backstage going, oh man, I hope this goes right. I'm going, man, let me out there because I'm ready to do it, like going into battle, you know, so pumped up.
Last question. You mentioned on here that it's a biographical work. What did you mean by that?
Yes, because all the music I selected to record on the album represents some aspect of my life growing up in the South Bronx. That's why the choice of tunes that are on there. And it's a panorama of my experience growing up in the South Bronx. And just to give you the singularity in terms of my life, the day I decided to become a professional musician, I was 12 years old, and I saw Maestro Tito Puente do a concert in front of my building in the Melrose Projects.
Wow, isn't that
681,
amazing?
right on the corner of East 153rd Street.
Wow.
And not only did I see Maestro Puente, I saw the great Machito Orchestra and Ricardo Rey and Bobby Cruz, his orchestra at the time, who had the hottest salsa band of the younger generation at that time. So when I saw Maestro Puente come out and do Vamos rumbero que la rumba ya va a empezar, Vamos timbero que la rumba ya va a empezar, I just said, that's it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Wow. So there it is. We can applaud for that for sure. All right, so I want to begin to wrap it up. We want to certainly thank Bobby Sanabria. Thank you for everything. Jennifer Jade Ledesna. What's next? We're just going to keep going every day?
I want to go back to Buenos Aires. Yeah, after, like, you know.
Why?
I just like it, and I think there's such
What's
an
his
audience.
name? What's his name?
He was in the band. I'm not gonna
fair
lie.
question.
You talked about Muse energy.
Oh,
You know.
Okay.
No, yeah, I just like the vibe, and I think there's lots of young audiences that really love jazz.
We want to promote the Bronx Music Hall and the opening of the Bronx Music Hall. I will say the artist, the place where we are, was voted the best concert venue in the Bronx. Maybe there will be some competition, but you know these guys have been here for a long time. So you know, next year when they start voting, we'll see how that turns out. Maybe we could have a tie for the Bronx Music Hall.
No, thank you for having us here. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful space. It's
It is a beautiful space.
very
and it's
well
nice and-
representative of what the Bronx is about.
It's nice and comfortable. So let's see, all the folks who came in, we appreciate everybody joining us. Monica and Elliot Glick, thank you both so much for everything you do. We are all going to enjoy Jenny's sweets. Are there sweet? Do you want to bring something up here? We could do it live on TV or something. Okay, we're going to pick up Jenny's sweets. And so, go ahead, you can put them right down here, and there will be nothing left by the time. And our technical director, George Williams, who is just an incredible human being and incredible talent.
Diet,
There you go. Episode 4, we do it the first Sunday of every month, but next month we're going to be out of town. So April 28th is the next one, and we have an artist called July Quin, who's a hip-hop guy, and he's going to be here, and he's going to entertain us, et cetera, et cetera. What's next for you? You're gonna the new album is already in works, or what are you doing?
Oh yeah, I mean I'm not going to announce it, but because I like to keep things. I've learned in my life not to announce things too soon because then usually somebody steals your idea or whatever. Right. But we have something even more monumental in the works.
More monumental.
And I'd like to say, can I give the phone number?
Of course.
For the tickets. Anybody wants to get tickets for either Friday night with Jazz Boricua or Saturday with the Multiverse Big Band, you can call 917-557-2354. That's 917-557-2354, 917-557-2345 para la gente que habla en español. Y estoy comprobando que sí, soy boricua y todavía hablo el español.
There we go. Listen, we also should mention coming up here at 3 o'clock today. Of course, people in podcast land, it won't matter to, but Freddie Lando is here. Nice to see you, Freddie. And Freddie will be singing. He's a wonderful, wonderful singer as well, like so many in the Bronx. And I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, shout out to the Wild Aces Motorcycle Club.
Yes. They're out there waiting.
So kind to not rev their motorcycles while
they are absolutely thrilled that this is going to end because they got to start revving up. Anyway, listen, really, thank you so much. We love the Bronx. The Bronx is the place, and this is the Bronx Music Podcast. I'm Gary Axelbank. I'll see you on TV doing what I normally do, but this is really what keeps my heart beating 24 hours a day. So we'll see you all around next time. If the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, I'll be here next time. Yes. Thank you.
Even the Gun Hill, the Freeman Street, the Prospect Avenue, Fordham Road, Cobb City, the Elder Avenue, Valley Park, Eaton Wall, the Bronx River, Bronx Deal, Soundview, S-Bar, baby. I'm boogie down like this Choke King Mario within the playground. This is how it go down.